I want people to feel empowered to believe that they're capable of achieving whatever they want. So whatever career industry that is for people, I want people to feel empowered to go to work every day, dreaming big and not being scared of that. And that's something that I'm still working on and learning within myself. So the goal to empower people to do it is a big challenge for me right now, but it's also an exciting one. And it's one that does scare me and does make me second guess myself, which lets on that I know I'm on the right path to doing what I'm meant to do.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Team Reinvented Gaming Podcast. I am here with Natasha Filipov. I probably messed that up, even though you just told me. But
close enough. It was good.
Good. She is ex-NFL cheerleader, dancer, Drexel alumni, businesswoman, and all of the above. So, Natasha, thank you for being on the podcast, and can't wait to hear what we talk about and what I can learn from you.
So, yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to share my experiences.
Nice. So let's get right into it. So you're a Renaissance woman, essentially. Your resume looks better than mine. So that's great. And I'm interested to see how you got into business. So I'm interested. How did you even get into business? What did that journey look for you after doing all these events?
Yeah, that's very sweet of you. Thanks for saying that. It's certainly busy, my resume.
Yes.
So basically, I am, as you mentioned, a Drexel University graduate. I was part of the class of 2021 in a 5-year program that was 3 co-ops long. For those who are listening that aren't familiar, the co-op program is essentially an internship program in which you do 3 6-month duration internships throughout your time. So you go to school for 6 months and then you work for 6 months for 3 years. And the other 2 are obviously, full academic sessions. And so I went through that program at Drexel. I majored in marketing and communications. It's ironic that you asked me how I got into it because, I remember being done high school and wondering what I wanted to go into and not really having a clue. But just knowing that business is applicable to everything. Everything is a business. And that's kind of the point of my podcast and my platform now that I run, which I'm sure we'll get into. But, I just thought that it would be a really evergreen field to learn and study and that you could apply that to any type of industry you had an interest in. So I was raised in the arts and I love the arts, but I knew that I probably didn't want to pursue that as an immediate career. And so that's where, that side passion came in through other things, as you mentioned. Like I was an NFL cheerleader and I did do other things with dance. I teach dance, I choreograph, but I kind of just got into business because I thought that it would be a really good field to have, an academic background in. Yeah. And then from there, I did all of my co-ops through Drexel with different organizations and corporations around Philadelphia. Graduated and just joined a pharmaceutical corporation working in a rotational program for them doing communications and government affairs work. So that's my day job. That's my 9 to 5, right? And I really, really like it. I think that anyone who maybe is a little bit unsure of what they want to pursue or has any interest in any of the business fields should definitely try to look into pursuing something in the business world because, like I said, you can just do so much with any type of degree or education.
No, that's very interesting. So we're kind of, I'm not saying opposites, but I guess I'll say opposites for lack of a better word. But you did something very smart, which I think, like you said, you chose business because generalistic, right? Major in academics, so that you can kind of bounce off your different side hustles and different things you want to do. So you can pull from that knowledge into different aspects of your life. I'm the opposite. I'm more specialized. So once I know I want to do something, I dive right into it and I become the master of that craft in particular. So that's very interesting.
Well, and there are, right? There's 2 ways to go about it. There's, if you know exactly what you want to do, you can attack it, as you said, just full on and you really go for it. And you can dedicate yourself to just being, an expert in that one thing. There's a great book, Outliers. I'm sure a lot of you've read it or a lot of people listening have read it. It's a very popular book, but essentially the author says that to become an expert at anything, all you need to do is devote 10,000 hours, which seems like a lot. But if you add up the number of hours that you spend doing a lot of cumulative things, it's not that much time. And so anyone who knows what they want to do like that is blessed. But I did take the route of kind of being more practical, generally speaking. And now I am using, I've always been a big dreamer, but I studied the more practical route. And now I'm using kind of my big dreams as and my practical background as an application to, elevating what I actually want to do, which is hopefully one day entrepreneurship and my own thing and my own brand,
Yeah.
and building that on the side, which is good.
Nice. So it's 2021, about to be 2022, and obviously business is booming, pun intended. And it's a hot topic. Entrepreneurship, obviously, over the last decade has come a long way from different people in the field. The Gary Vee, Grant Cardone. These guys have heavy hitters in entrepreneurship, and they have influenced many. So my question is, who do you look up to in business, or do you even have an idol business? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is there anybody in particular?
I can name a lot of them, actually.
Who's your top two?
Top two. Well, I do have a top one, and that's
Oh,
Sarah Blakely of Spanx. She's a Spanx CEO.
okay.
And I absolutely idolize her. I think that she is. Actually, I will give you a top two. First, on Sarah Blakely, I think she's just fantastic. I think her mission, her company, what she did with a shapewear brand, how she's elevated that, how she built that is absolutely iconic. And I really admire her for how she talks about her personal life and how she never settled for anything.
Okay.
As someone who's 23 and just starting my career in business and really my adult life, that is someone who I hope to emulate.
Mhm.
And second is Whitney Wolfe Herd, who is the CEO of Bumble. And she has a really interesting background, kind of coming from Tinder. She had like a sexual assault case almost that she dealt with while she was at Tinder, and that really is what inspired her to start Bumble. And women making the first move. And while I don't online date and never will, her brand is something that I think is really cool. That was really novel at the time it came about.
Yeah.
And I think changed the landscape of her business of online dating. So she's another one I really look up to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think entrepreneurship has strayed away? So I'm gonna preface this question with, I think there's a lot of repetition in business teachings nowadays, which is good, right? And you want to install principles into people's mind, and beat those principles into the mind, essentially, right? But I don't know if people are becoming entrepreneurs nowadays because they actually want to, or because it's a trend.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I want to hear your thoughts on that. And I don't know. I just think that's very interesting. And so, do you think entrepreneurship has strayed away from what it was originally designed to do? A decade ago.
No,
Or
interesting question. I see what you mean, and I can understand where you're coming from. In that, I always say, and I've written blog posts about this, or commented on this, or I've said this somewhere, maybe on a different podcast, but
okay.
Right now it's very flashy that everyone has a secondary Instagram page, right? Whether that is like in COVID when the tie-dye businesses blew up, or whether that is a blog or a poetry page, or a small side business for ironing on print shirts, like whatever that is. I do think that it became very trendy that everyone had their own thing, which is great. I'm in total support. However, I will say I think there's a difference between an Instagram entrepreneur, or a small business entrepreneur, and an entrepreneur that has investors, that is a larger scale business. And I'm not saying one is harder or worse or better or less than the other. They're just different types of entrepreneurship out there. So I think that some of it, like the Instagram entrepreneurship influencing small businesses, have become trendy just because naturally they've become more popular because the internet has made them accessible to others. I think that large scale entrepreneurship, people who are in the valuation process and who have LLCs formed, that is very different. And I think that takes a different level of dedication and risk, that makes it less popular, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yeah, when you actually create LLC, get that certificate of formation, the operating agreement, you have to a new level. You got to talk to attorneys who you actually have to do taxes. You got to do all that stuff.
I mean, people think that starting a business is as simple as writing things off. There's the Schitt's Creek episode, if anyone watches that TV show, that I love, where David is trying to explain to Alexis what a write-off is, and she's like, well, it's for my business, and she just starts buying random SHIT. And, people don't know that, like, in order to form an LLC and in order to write things off, you need to be able to prove that your business or your operating model is profitable within 3 years of your incorporation.
Yeah.
So, it's easy to do, but it's hard to, commit to that if you're not positive in your business model or in your business
Yeah.
platform, whatever that might be.
Yeah. It also comes down to who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And the more life experiences you have, me being in the military, you doing everything under the sun, I think you start learning who you are. And I'll talk to you a little bit after this about some ideas I'm having, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. But yeah, it definitely comes down to who you are. Gary Vee always says that his version of a purebred entrepreneur is somebody who literally cannot have a job, somebody who's psychologically wired to just be an entrepreneur. To each their own, but it's very interesting nowadays, and we'll see how the 2020s, move forward with entrepreneurship, what books are created, what other people come to mind, and everything like that. So
yeah, well, and there's different motivations for entrepreneurship too, right? Like, are you trying to improve a process? Are you trying to solve a problem?
mm-hmm.
Are you trying to start a business in an oversaturated field and excel and beat out your competitors? So I run a podcast and a platform and a blog called This Blonde Means Business, where I interview entrepreneurs like yourself. That's how we met initially. And, I've realized from my conversations with them, I've now interviewed over 30 people on that podcast, which is crazy.
Nice.
I've realized that everyone does have a different motivation. So I think it is mindset, but I also think it's motivation too.
Makes sense. So now touching on to This Blonde Means Business, your podcast that you created that I've watched, and you have some very good guests on there, and your production quality it's great. So
thank you.
Definitely, I'm definitely grateful to be on that, to have been on that, and can't wait.
Yeah, I'm grateful to have had you. I love talking to a lot of entrepreneurs across industries. It's really neat to hear about everyone's different journeys and their why, why they got started.
Yeah. So going back to the business field is saturated.
Mm-hmm.
What makes This Blonde Means Business different, right? Because there's a lot of business podcasts out there. So what makes yours different than others?
Yeah. Well, it really goes back to my motivation for starting This Blonde Means Business. And I started it when I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
And the opportunity to give a TEDx talk came up. And I spoke on gender inequality, specifically business and, women in business and women in the workforce, because that was what I was dealing with at the time a lot, being an NFL cheerleader, being in school, people saying that marketing was the easy major and, that the finance bros were the ones who ruled the business school, and having things said to me and different co-op interviews and experiences I was having. I really felt that at that time in my life, this pressure that, as a woman in business, you had to adhere to one label, which is the opposite of my identity. That's not who I am. I never affix myself to one organization, one job, one city, one person. Like, I am very much focused on always being very well-rounded to all my passions and staying true to them. And so that was something that really inspired me with This Blonde Means Business was, again, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do in my career, but I would sit in business school and I would, have these peers of mine, some of them mainly male, say things like, oh, well, I did so well in this exam, or I got this huge internship. And, and I felt almost like it was very competitive, but in a way that made it pressuring to identify exactly what you wanted to do. And what inspired me the most was not I was never the one who would get A's on the exams in finance class, but I was always the one who would go up to the guest speaker after and get their contact info and then have an internship offer in the spring because I continued to maintain that relationship.
Yeah.
It's just what inspired me in business school was hearing about the stories from others regarding their careers and why they chose what they chose and what they did what they did. Again, people's motivations, people's whys. That was really fascinating to me, and that was really inspiring, and that motivated me to want to succeed in business in my own career, build my own brand to highlight others. And so that's really what This Blonde Means Business is about. It's really about, story sharing, career stories, and stories of entrepreneurship to inspire others to pursue their most authentic selves, and then about providing tips and tricks to help them achieve that and realize that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to follow that, but no.
It's hard to articulate. Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard to articulate too, right? Because It's like, what makes you different than any page?
Yeah.
And I have people that are like, oh, well, it's a women in business page. And it's actually not.
No.
I really am just trying to highlight people. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? The
absolutely.
whole
Absolutely.
individuals and their individuality, as it pertains to their
Makes sense.
career and their motivations in life, as as their why.
Yeah. So going women in business.
Mhm.
So would you say that it was harder for you? Like it was harder being a woman to advance business wise? And I know you're very proactive in your endeavors, right? But was it harder? Like I don't know if I should even label it that way. I think I'm asking the question wrong.
No, I
Like
understand what you're saying. I don't know that I would say harder. I would say I think and I don't even want I don't like to believe that it's exclusive to women, because I think that there's males too that experience in their work environments the reverse situations. Case in point, my girlfriend is a
mhm.
nurse,
Okay.
and she always comments on how male nurses are the minority, right?
Okay.
So they're always put in situations, or she's told us stories of how sometimes she's seen them put in situations that are more difficult, right? Same thing as being a woman in business, but I think it happens to men in business too. I think it happens in every industry to both genders. I will say, being a woman in business, there's things that have happened to me, yes, that I'm like, you know what, this, like, even just something as simple as being hit on uncomfortably, where I'm like, this isn't professional. And what
Yeah.
it takes is just the blanket realization that it happens to everyone in every industry at some point. I want to believe. Does it
Yeah.
happen more so to women in business than probably men in business? Yes. However, I try to maintain the idea that it's how you maintain yourself, and it's how you address
Okay.
it and just shut it down in a polite, professional manner. There's been times at work where, yeah, it's made my job harder when someone is hitting on me really inappropriately. That does make my job harder,
Yeah.
right? But there's also things in every job landscape that make it harder for everyone. So, if anything, I always try to use it as a strength and not a weakness. Not that it is one,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, I think it's a challenge that definitely everyone can relate to, especially women in business, especially anyone in any minority environment, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, that line between, I had a couple. I have a couple female employees and everything like that, and I've never crossed that line. I've never done anything to make them uncomfortable. But yeah, it can be. It's just weird. It's just weird because I was in the military that we're taught not to fraternize and to
Mhm.
just accomplish the mission and like, yeah, care for the people next to you, but just accomplish the mission. And I don't understand why that even happens in business. And some of these CEOs nowadays are just I think it stems from the ease of becoming a business owner that you get people who actually haven't put in the work, not to discredit people, but people who became CEOs overnight and now they have these people under them and they don't know how to actually manage people. They haven't actually built any leadership skills.
Yeah, I
So
just think at the end of the day, it comes down to whether you're male or female in whatever industry you're in, there is a certain level of professionalism that you should always maintain. And I mean, like, always, just in
yeah,
life, I think it's also about being respectful too. Um, you know, I hear a lot about work environments that are very casual and lax and not corporate and fun. And to me, that still means that you can be professional and
yeah,
respectful at all times.
yeah.
So I think there is a fine line. And I think a lot of times it does get crossed, which is unfortunate. But I think there are a lot of people who do respect the line,
Mm-hmm.
and who know that you can maintain positive relationships with coworkers that are not crossing that.
Yes. Do you plan on going to school for like a master's or PhD?
It's a great question. So I never loved school. I have to be honest. I
Hey, me too.
always maintained the expectation of learning more outside of the classroom through experiential learning. And that was Drexel's huge claim to fame, and right, like their co-op. And that's probably where it was instilled in me. But I feel like I always learned more while I was on the job. I
Makes
feel like I
sense.
always learned more from doing. I feel like I learned more about writing from starting my podcast. I feel like I learned more about branding from starting the Squami's business. I learned more about working from going to work. So while I think, and this is not to knock academia is so wholly important. And I respect anyone in the field and who's dedicated their lives to it and have a lot of, you know, prioritization for my academic background and gratefulness, but I don't necessarily plan to continue that. If I did, I would probably try to go for my JD MBA. I think an MBA nowadays is similar to an undergrad degree. Almost everyone has one.
It's useless. I mean, okay, I don't want to say useless.
It's not,
It's everybody has, like you said, every business person, they get the MBA and then you move on from there. So
yeah, I just think there's something to say about having that little bit of law background is combined with business, because they overlap more than you would think. Even something as silly as like, I had a contract to look over for my podcast and I didn't know what the hell I was doing, like I had to get someone else involved. Whereas if I had more of that knowledge myself, and I'm sure this is something that you can self-teach or learn, that would have been really useful for me. But I will say it depends on your industry and it depends on if it's really worth it for you. So like the return on investment for me personally to pay or ask my company to pay for an MBA, it would depend. Like I would have to look into that. It would depend, but that's what I would encourage anyone listening to do. If you're interested in higher education, try to have your company sponsor you and pay some of it. Because it's crazy. I mean, we know the cost of higher education is just astronomical, but yeah, I think it depends. What's the return on investment? You have to do that calculation for yourself,
Yes. So Drexel in particular, they're known, like you said, they're known for that co-op. Like that's like a standard thing. Like if you go to Drexel University, you're going to be doing a co-op, or really? Oh wow.
Yeah. So they have the 5-year program, which is 3 co-ops, and the 4-year program, which is 1 co-op. But and I don't want to speak for the entire organization, but specifically to business, it's a very rigorous program.
Interesting. I kind of wish more schools did that, because like
Drexel and Northwestern are the only 2 that I'm aware of. But I have to say, like, I would not, and I can say like with like exclamation points after every word, capitals, like I'm screaming at, like I would not have had the experiences, professional and personal, that I have had to this point without going to Drexel. So I couldn't be more grateful that I chose that school and met the people I did who inspired me the way that I did, being in the city, having those co-op experiences. Like my full-time job offer after college was, I don't think I would have gotten that offer had I not went to Drexel. So really grateful. And I can't say enough about the school. That's positive.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, that ability to have experience.
Proud alumni.
What happened?
I said proud alumni. Proud alumni.
Nice. I'm about to go to Drexel. No.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. Like in when I was in the Marine Corps, obviously we go to like boot camp, all that stuff, combat training, everything, and then you go to your job. Mine was intelligence. You go to your job school and everything like that. But I've always the Marine Corps taught me like experience. Not kind of. Experience does way more than academics. Because like I said, you get that hands-on knowledge. You actually know what that workforce is actually like, and you actually do the job. So like you can tell somebody, yes, I did this for 5 years. So the fact that you have that combination of both, you're good. Yeah, you are
set
in the right direction.
It's a discipline, like it's about being disciplined. It's about and I'm not knocking, but like waking up when you're 18 years old and having to go to co-op, having to go to work, having to almost like, I don't want to say grow up faster than you have to, but mature quickly. And realize that you're the only one who controls your success.
Yes. So your podcast, I saw some videos of you doing it in person. Are you still doing it in person? Is it more Zoom based or?
It's more Zoom based now. So I was on Zoom primarily. I started it in the pandemic. Well, initially I started, it was not the pandemic. I launched in the pandemic, continued doing it on Zoom. Then the pandemic, obviously, with the vaccines and things kind of getting a little bit better, I went in person.
Yes.
And now I'm back on Zoom. I find that I'm reaching people who are not just local to Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
On Zoom. So it's really cool. Like I have some international guests coming up, which I'm excited about. I have guests from Mississippi, random, but it's a wider net. And I do hope to ideally do them in a hybrid style where I have a few in person and then a few, obviously, a month that are virtual. But yeah, it was fun doing it in person. It's fun doing it online too, though. That's the beauty. I think that, again, like just in business in general, like we've seen that companies can still operate and be successful and people can still carry on their operations via Zoom. The pandemic proved that. So it's been good. And I'm really fortunate that it's been able to work out both ways.
Yes. So we have about like 5 minutes left. So I got 2 more questions.
Yeah.
I will touch on this one beforehand though. We'll see if if we see more remote companies start becoming a thing now. Like even in my own company, I thought about like, do I even want to get an office building? Do I just want to run the whole thing online? And granted, the nature of esports is online, so that kind of weighs more in my decision making. But
Mhm.
I'd be interested to see. I wouldn't be surprised if in the 2020s we see a company start online and stay remotely online and kind of set that precedence. There's been companies in like the early 2000s that are still remote companies, but to see somebody start with the technology we have nowadays, I'm interested to see if that actually becomes a thing, and I'll keep my eye out on that. So
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting trend. There's a lot of things happening right now, like the great migration and people leaving jobs and finding new ones,
yeah,
finding better opportunities. A lot of employees, a large reason for that migration is that a lot of employees are not willing to go back into the office, and so we're seeing employees then find jobs with companies who are more contemporary,
hmm
or that have more contemporary styles of working and are willing to be completely remote. And that's something that even in my personal life, I could tell you 5 friends off the top of my head who've moved companies because of that reason.
yes,
Um, so yeah, I think it's definitely a shift. I think it will also ripple into real estate if I had to guess how that would affect,
yeah,
just
people,
our larger economy down the line, because I can again think of 5 office buildings off
yeah,
the top of my head, local Philadelphia, who have
shut,
been vacated and have relocated to smaller office buildings because they're not housing as many employees as they once did.
yes,
And so that leaves a larger question of what's going to happen to all that office space. Because if the large corporations are moving out of these large office spaces, who's taking them over, right?
exactly.
So, I mean, right now it's each other, but eventually, is there going to be more of that shift, or are corporations
Mhm.
going to become stronger in getting people back to the office? So, I think that's something to look out for. And I don't know which one it is, but I think that it could be one or the other. And I think it'll be interesting to see which.
Yes, yes. The economic secondary tertiary effects of this great migration, we're gonna feel it. We are gonna feel it in a few years.
Yeah, the
And
great resignation, I think they're
yeah,
calling it.
resignation. Yeah. Why did I say
Resignation,
why
but
did I
it's
say
really
migration?
not. It's a resignation to go work at another company. If you really look at the
Yeah.
data, um,
So like that same economical factor is still gonna be factored in. Yeah, people are getting leaving jobs to get other jobs. So the cycle is
exactly.
still kind of continuing.
Exactly. A lot of people are under the misconception that everyone's just quitting their job.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I mean,
I
there's a
mean,
lot of reasons and
yeah.
rationales behind that. Like, I've been reading about it just because it interests me, but it's not just that people are leaving
Yeah.
the workforce in America. It's that people are shifting and
Yes.
adapting, which is again what COVID prompted us to do.
Yes.
You know?
So and unemployment is also nice. So no, I'm joking. Yeah.
Oh
But
my goodness.
so two more questions. The first one is where can people find you if they want to learn more about you?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram is my primary social channel, but
Okay.
it's Natasha_Filipov is my personal.
Mm-hmm.
My LinkedIn is also Natasha Filipov, just my name. That's Filipov.
Yep.
And my platform, This Blonde Means Business, is just This Blonde Means Business on all platforms. We're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I'm probably forgetting one or two there. Podcast is available on all standard streaming platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the website where my blog is thisblondemeansbusiness.com. And you can find me there as well.
Easy. It'll all be down here. Down there.
Awesome.
Yeah. And last question. I probably already know the answer to this, but how do you want to reinvent your industry?
Hmm. You know, that is a hard, like I
Yeah,
found it's a harder question than
I,
you probably surmise, but I would say I want people to feel empowered to believe that they're capable of achieving whatever they want. So, whatever career industry that is for people, I want people to feel empowered to go to work every day dreaming big and not being scared of that. And that's something that I'm still working on and learning within myself. So the goal to empower people to do it is a big challenge for me right
yes.
now. But it's also an exciting one, and it's one that does scare me and does make me second guess myself, which lets on that I know I'm on the right path to doing what I meant to do. So I hope to continue growing this Blonde Means business and talking and connecting with entrepreneurs. As we sit here, I'm big about vision boarding. I think encourage
Uh-huh.
everyone listening to do it. And I actually set my vision board down on my desk the other day, as opposed to having it somewhere else that was in my apartment. And I stare at it all the time now because I am literally like using my computers all day long. And so I'm looking down, and one of the quotations or passages that I put on my vision board about a year ago was, even if it doesn't feel, or even if it's not super profitable, it feels really great to come to work every day. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, where it feels really good to be doing the work I'm doing. And I hope that it grows in impact, and I hope that it grows in profitability and scale, and, so many things that we all measure a business by. But right now it's a passion project that I'm really proud of and that I'm happy to host entrepreneurs on. And I hope that continues.
Nice. Well, folks, yeah,
That's it.
yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I know you have success. Your company is doing great things, and I advise everybody to go check it out. I can't wait to see what you accomplish in the 2020s, the Roaring 20s.
I know, you as well. We'll stay in connection.
So, guys, that's pretty much it. Natasha, thank you once again for being on the podcast. Great talk. I learned a lot, so thank you. And
thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you. And yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. So I will catch you in the next one.